All right, so we have open here with Trey, and looks like a 3-bet by Matt.
There.
Trying to get Matt's cards. He adjusts them a little bit. We'll get him eventually.
Yeah,
looks like Trey's
got decent suited hand
so
pair.
they're very deep here. With the blinds being, I think they are running 5-5-10 today. Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, 5-5-10 on
so
caps.
What we'd essentially look at is 300 big blinds or so. Definitely a normal defend, normal open here for Trey.
Check sees flop bottom 2. We still don't know exactly what Westlake has here. And a bet.
Definitely going to see a check raise here. This is a spot where Trey has a hand that is really good but very vulnerable. Right. So, and he just opts for a call. Definitely an option. But typically in these spots, you're going to want to be check raising on a board that's like this because you have a jack, a queen, a spade, all of the an ace. A lot of these are going to dynamically change the board, and potentially whenever you're out of position, you lose that opportunity to get more money into the pot. So if this turn were to go check check, he loses an opportunity to get more money in. It looks like Matt's going to go for another bet, and I suspect if he doesn't check raise the flop, that it's probably going to be coming here on the turn, and he gets a very safe turn here to raise.
This is still a guess as to what Westlake has. Could have king queen and could have ace king. That's always kind of a fun game to play. Like what is the mystery hand? And sometimes you get it right on the money, and sometimes you're like, I was not even in the ballpark.
This is a very sizable check raise here. So the thing is, whenever he check raises this amount, he's already shown Matt that there is no way that there isn't a river card where he's not going to put the money in. Is pretty much what he's selling him. Granted, whenever we see his exact hand, if a king comes off, it's probably one card he might be able to get away on. But there's just not any money left behind. Looks like he makes it about 1,700.
Westlake pausing here as trying to piece together what he has. We don't know exactly what he has, but it's... Yeah, I think if he had absolutely air, he would have given up on this. So there's... It wouldn't surprise me if it's just good old-fashioned ace-king, big slick.
Yeah, it looks like he just calls. So I suspect he's not folding on very many rivers here.
Yeah, Trey doesn't have a whole... I mean, what he's got... 560 as we see on the left of your screen. We'll respond to some questions here after the hand, but deuce here on the river, so that potentially counterfeits Trey's hand. As looks like he had an ace-high flush draw, and then he rivers 3 of a kind, deuces. Oh!
Ace, deuces, spades.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
He's got definitely raising queen, jack, diamonds up to 40.
And Keenan, very similarly to what Bones had done, isolating. It's kind of funny. That was the exact same hand that George had opened Queen Jack suited.
Oh, yep.
He got 3-bet by 8-6, and then we eventually had a 4-bet. But now we've got it again here with the Queen Jack and the 8-6. So we'll see a flop here with them head to head.
It's not one of those inside joke things like the 9 cruise. I don't know about that. 8-6 holds some inside standard that we don't know about, but Keenan going up against top pair of Dudley.
So he opts for a bit of a down bet. We're going to get a check call here, likely from Dudley. And Keenan's probably going to be shutting down on most turns, unless he's picking up some additional equity here.
Yeah,
Oh, we get a check raise. Did it look like we get a check raise?
Go for it.
Interesting.
Boom.
Okay.
Raise up to 300. Fair size raise.
So in a spot where Keenan's going to have a pretty uncapped range, meaning that he's still going to have all of the queens, kings, aces. He could still have jacks. He can, there's quite a few hands. He's probably not going to have very many 5s or 4s. This is a little bit odd that he's going to be check raising here. His hand plays really well as a call, and we could be bloating the pot here out of position against a range from Keenan that can definitely put us in some trouble. But it's going to work out pretty well for him with the 8-6 here.
Yeah, I mean, is that because I think there's this kind of duality between, like, we're taught to protect our hand against draws, and then be able to decipher, okay, what draw am I up against that I can kind of continue to play my hand from the position of I feel like I have the best hand versus I don't know where the hell I'm at.
Yeah, there's definitely a give and take in regards to that.
And an 8 comes on the turn, a little extra equity here for Keenan. Dudley's still the best hand with top pair.
So it's really trying to determine where the ultimate value of Queen Jack is going to be within that spectrum. And typically this is going to be a hand that is not particularly strong in all of the possible hands that you're going to have in this kind of spot. So if you're going to have a strategy where you're check raising this hand, what are you doing? What are you doing when you have King Jack? What are you doing when you have Jack 10? What are you doing whenever you have Ace Jack? Does that mean you're check raising every time you have a Jack? Like, this is where it gets kind of interesting. But perhaps there's been some kind of dynamic where these two have played together, and so there is a lot of what oftentimes you have mind games and meta games and these kinds of things. And if he's able to squeeze additional value out in this spot, it definitely can work out in his favor.
Enough of a bet to keep Keenan in here as we go to the Riv. 1,600 in the middle. Heads up, Dudley Keenan. Stays the best hand. King on the end. I feel like this goes check here on the end, I think. Keenan decides he wants to barrel at it.
Yeah, the thing is that he's not going to have enough money to get him to fold. So, like, if Dudley does check here, right, and Keenan decides to shove, which it looks like it's going to happen. Yeah.
I mean, if he has maybe like 1,000, 1,005, I mean, I think it's a lot clearer decision here for Dudley.
Yeah. So, whenever we talk about trying to structure your hand in a way, so this kind of goes back to some of the things that we talked about. One, did we structure our hand in a certain way where we allowed ourselves to have fold equity by the river, right? And with $600, and granted we have an 8 here, we don't have a lot of that fold equity, but it looks like it's going to work here.
It's enough to
get Dudley to fold. Typically, we're not going to have a lot of fold equity in this spot. Play.
Well, here's Kevin with some aces. I don't think we've seen aces in a while.
It has been a little bit of time for sure.
Okay, there's the raise.
Yeah, I think he announced a raise, and
so it's not a string bet.
Yeah.
Trolls. No, I could. Here's Bones. I think he's reasonable here for him to call. He's got position. Jack 10 suited. I can't see him getting away from this. At least to see a flop.
So, King Queen is probably going to be a defend here, but it is one of these things where you kind of feel like you might be dominated, and I definitely don't fault him for folding in the spot. A lot of what we expect Kevin to have is going to have some, like, Ace King and Ace Queen be a decent portion of that range, and getting in there with King Queen can be in trouble.
Bones and Kevin going to tangle up here. We've got 3 deuce flush draw here for Bones. Over pair. Mr. Kevin Rand.
It's going to be a pretty small flop bet, I would imagine. See a little under half pot, looks like.
Bones stoic here. For sure, here going to take a call. Comes a 4. So ace is up here for Kevin.
So this turn is really just going to come down to sizing on whether or not Bones is going to be able to continue. There's not a lot for Kevin to have to protect against, so I imagine it's still going to be somewhere between 3 to 450 is going to be the bet.
Wow, got it right on the money there. Rami Stradamus calling it right there. I bet a 450.
So the questions for Bones, and probably what he's thinking through here is trying to discern what percentage of the time the Jack or the 10 might be an out in conjunction with the flush outs. The problem is that whenever you start to continue a little bit here, there are going to be some times where you have a flush draw that's dominating you as well.
And I think
given the sizing here, it's kind of close. It really is close.
It's just low enough that he can consider.
Well, it's not only that. Like, if you think back to some of the hand histories that these two guys have, Bones knows that if he hits this card, there's no way that Kevin's going to be able to fold to him.
Man,
right?
he hits it here with the 8 of clubs on the end. Can't imagine Kevin loves this card, but a little revenge here for Bones. These guys are tangled up quite a bit on the live stream, like you said. They've got a lot of history with each other. They're friends, obviously, but
so if we're looking at this river and whether or not to bet or to check, I think we would.
Bet all in, call Bones making a splash here at 5-5 night here on TCH. Gotta call it 3-5. The cutoff. And he's gonna flop a wheel and go up against a flush draw.
So this is one of the things where Westlake will do stuff that a lot of players won't, and that's that he will be consistent across his entire range to try and maintain balance. So he's in a spot where he doesn't have a lot of check raises in this spot, and so he'll use a hand like this to maintain some of that.
And smashes the turn.
I'll be really interested to see if he checks again here on the turn. I think checking on the turn or betting small is probably ideal. Because if we look at what Kevin would expect him to do with most of his flushes and flush draws on the flop, I think it's probably going to be in line with betting. And
puts in a raise there.
And betting small also does give the opportunity for Kevin to do something like this. Whereas if he bets too big, there's just not a lot of maneuverability. So I suspect what's going to happen here is he's going to call, and then he's going to check river. He'll just check 100% of rivers.
Going to lay out the trap here as he raises up to 525. Heads up to the river as Queen. Doesn't change anything. Westlake's still the best hand.
I think you're going to have Kevin jam this river.
Let's see if he raises the breaks again. She has not tended to do.
It's just, the thing is, I think it's going to be pretty hard for, I think he's going to bet pretty big or shove. I just think that's
all in. Alright, bet call, is that what happened?
Yeah, it was a bet and a call.